we're going to talk about why funnels are out and loops are in. This is Growth Loops 101. So there is some trending behavior happening out on the web right as we speak. Traditional search engines are not being used as much as they were, and people are favoring more visual and storytelling led creative to get their news and information from around social media and especially with AI tools. Now, with this changing landscape and forever changing kind of digital marketing strategies and tactics, what we're also finding among these audiences that are changing these behaviors, specifically Gen Z and younger, there are some millennials and some elder um, generations that are jumping on these trends as well, but specifically talking maybe Gen Z as in the spotlight, is we're seeing that they no longer live or move in a linear fashion. That's to say, they no longer go from awareness to consideration to purchase unless they are really in that moment of committing to a purchase. What we do see quite a lot is people frenetically traversing different apps, different ways of generating or gathering information to help them on this subjective search and to build up trust in order to make that commitment. So, for example, if someone was looking for a particular retail item, you will probably likely see them go to a platform like TikTok and search for that item. They're looking for it from a specific brand, perhaps. If they don't find that, they're going to Instagram, they're going to places like Substack, they might go to Quora, they might go to Reddit, then they might end up doing a Google search. If you're not available and adding value in those spaces, well, guess what's going to happen? You're going to lose that traffic. Okay. Now, the funnel nowadays, as I mentioned, is typically made redundant. Okay, so let's set the scene in this particular instance. You're all used to this funnel happening. It's about putting people in at the top and having them move through the differing stages to get to that purchase at the bottom. Now, what the fundamental challenge is that once someone converts, it's done. There is rarely an inbuilt mechanism to allow for ongoing growth. And if you're trying to build that mechanism, it's actually really quite difficult to implement it if you didn't consider it in the first instance. Okay. So when we think about funnels, it's really actually a lot better for paid media, but it's not great for a sustainable compounding growth element for your business. Now, this is where growth loops come in. Okay. So growth loops are a system where every output feeds a new input. And instead of looking at the traditional funnel, this is how we view a growth loop. Typically 3 stages, can be 4. The first stage is always a new or an existing customer. The stages that they go through towards an output, which should have a significant impact on this closed loop system. So what you'll notice is that this is very much designed for compounding results. It has a compounding effect where, for example, user acquisition generates more user acquisition. That's as simple as it can really come. We're not just considering conversion within this model. We are considering compounding results that scale and grow the more momentum that it builds. This system is built to scale organically. It can be fueled by performance, but what we're really looking at accomplishing here is actually putting performance marketing on the back seat. The businesses that are going through growth in 2025 and beyond, where paid media is their one and only growth strategy, they're the ones that are going to get left behind. Whereas those that look at paid media as just a part of that entire growth strategy, where they're leaning in on organic growth with their customers at the center of it, those are the ones that are going to win. So let's slow down a little bit and talk about what actually is a growth loop. I've mentioned the various stages before. There's an input, an action, and an output. And the aim of that is to refeed that information into the loop. And the compounding nature of this means that this should work for you even when you're sleeping. Once you put these mechanisms in place, these growth strategies and tactics are going to be what fuels your business growth, even without you paying attention to it. In fact, the idea is actually for you to spend less time on your growth strategy, more time working on what else is surrounding in the universe of your business, and allowing your growth loops, your individual loops, we call them macro and micro loops, allowing them to do the work for you. So instead of starting from scratch with each new customer, the idea also is that you are building on the foundations of what a previous customer or a previous audience has already started building the foundations for and generating for you for your business. Now, this could be in a multitude of different ways, and there are various different loops to pay attention to on the micro level, on the zoomed in level. And we'll get to some of those a little bit later and in future content and videos as well. But the idea here is that every user coming through fuels what the next user needs in order to make the commitment. To put this into perspective for you, we can talk about a viral referral loop, or as I would prefer to call it, a closed network loop. Now, this is actually looking at when a user joins, they invite a friend, that friend joins, and then the cycle continues. Now, the key fundamental that's missing there is the incentivization or the motivation that supports with that. Uber actually had a fantastic growth lever within this within this topic, utilizing people to refer more people into their system. They had a 50% off refer a friend incentivization, and it wasn't just on one ride; it was on two. We talk about this a little bit more in the next video. But the whole point was they used data to understand that people who take at least two rides are much more likely to come back and continue using the service. So to incentivize that behavior and reward the people that could allow that to happen for them, they said, hey, get a person on this platform and they get 50% off the next two rides. And as a thank you, we're going to give you 50% off your next two rides as well. This is a very classic referral loop, but this is something that worked in Uber's favor, even when the whole team was sleeping or when the whole team was having a coffee break. It was consistently and continuously working for them. And guess what? Their cost per acquired user on a broader level for the business decreased drastically. They actually ended up, that program actually paid for itself and then some, outperforming every other channel that they had working for them with user acquisition. It is that powerful. Now, another example of one of those micro growth loops is something that I've already referred to, and that is lying within the behavior that people are not really going to traditional search engines anymore. Instead, they're utilizing social media platforms and AI platforms in order to search, discover, and commit to products and businesses away from that traditional search behavior that we're all very used to. Now, this differs quite significantly with the differing age groups. Some older Gen Zs still do look for traditional search engines as a bit of a go-to platform for that search. Millennials are a little bit split depending on I think the background and the way you used social media growing up. Myself being sort of like I believe a middle of the road to older millennial, definitely still looks at social media as not a traditional search engine. So I would typically go to a search engine or use an AI tool. Now, these behaviors are actually putting SEO or search engine optimization on the back foot, where a very traditional marketing practice that has been a leading tactic in the way that businesses grow is fundamentally needing to change. And the way that we look at that is we have SEO that helps rank businesses on search engines. And then we obviously have content that help people rank and get discoverable on the social media platforms. Now, what's happening when people are moving away from the search engines and moving towards social media is all that SEO is starting to become redundant. continuing to do those SEO practices, I think, while it's still fundamental, is not going to help you be kind of rank or discoverable on social media. So these two things have to be bridged. The gap has to be bridged. And search match optimization, or SMO, is the thing that is going to help bridge that gap. And the way that we look at search match optimization is within the user's subjective search, we call it. And what that is a mixture of two things. The first thing is what they want, need, or desire. I need this thing. I want that product. I desire this outcome. And the second thing is what we class as a fragmented memory of micro interactions from consuming content. So to put that in a better way, if you've viewed content of a particular brand, of a particular product, you may get served a few videos within a couple of days on TikTok or Instagram or a mixture of both. And you're like, that's not for me. 2 weeks later, it may dawn on you that is something for you, or a friend or a family member has bought this up, and you're like, oh, I know exactly what you need, right? But they can't remember your brand name, they can't exactly remember what the product's called, and so they are left to do this subjective search. And instead of looking for a particular going for a particular search term which you may have put time and effort and energy in with your SEO, they are using long form search phrases and terms based on descriptive natures of what they remember and what it is that they need. And when you are not searching up for that and not generating content that fills that need, then you are losing a lot more traffic than if you were to just lose traffic on SEO. So there's a huge opportunity of bridging the gap between those two practices. And we'll go into how you can optimize that in a later video. So do search for that or have a wait around depending on when you're viewing this video. And we'll go into that in more detail. But that is a great example of a micro loop which you need to be paying attention to in 2025. Now, we've spoken about micro loops. Let's talk a little bit about universal loops. The universal loop is essentially looking at all of the different fundamental functions that operate within your business which add or support growth. So you'll have things like your website in there, your social media profiles, your paid activity if you're running it, things like SEO, customer lifecycle communications, testimonials and reviews. You could add in influencer marketing, ambassador programs. You could add in strategic partnerships, ghostwriting and blogs, all those kinds of things, all those different functions, although they can sit underneath umbrella terms, are working for you in terms of generating your universal growth engine, for a lack of a better word. Okay. And effectively, what this should be looking at is combining product, content, and community all in one. Now, very similar to the micro loops, if one element of that is broken, then it is going to it's going to feel the effects of that being broken and not work as effectively as you want or need it to. So when we zoom out and have a look at the grander kind of growth loop process and concept, you really need to make sure that each of the individual elements are working for one another. An example of this is if you work in retail or e-com, you have a physical brand. When users hit your website, what SEO does, and they're looking at a particular product, what SEO does is it will send quality signals to the search engines. It will tell them what you're looking at, typically how long you've been looking at it for. It should be giving people information like the description, price, where it's available, shipping, and be really descriptive about what that product is, right? That's the whole point of it. Now, what happens then is when that user then starts searching for on search engines, or other people are searching within Google, and they're looking for that particular product, those quality signals should not just inform that person that's previously been on your site, but people that could potentially end up on your site as well. Now, if those quality signals are not up to scratch in that wider, like, global growth loop, then you are going to feel the detrimental effect of that happening, with less traffic, less conversions, and less revenue. And the thing about this is it's a hidden in plain sight problem. It's a growth blocker, which is just sitting there that you may not know much about or know really the impact that it's having. But I'm telling you that if that is the case, if you are not optimizing your SEO well enough, you could be leaving hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, euros, pounds, yen on the table as a result of that. Okay, so lastly, in this video, we're going to talk about the economic advantage of growth loops. Now, I've mentioned this previously when I spoke about the Uber example. Um, what will happen within your business when you have a fully operational growth loop that is working day and night for you, compounding results, are a few things related to how you acquire users and the value that you get from them after you've given them value as well. So, what will happen? These things, that kind of signals that you can measure, physically measure, are going to be your cost per acquired user, or CAC, is naturally going to decrease over time. This is powerful because social media costs on your cost per thousand or your CPMs, cost per clicks, are increasing. They're rising. It's becoming more and more expensive to advertise to these users. So, a method and a way of decreasing your CAC over time is going to offset that increase that you'll be seeing during your paid media efforts. Okay. The next thing that you're going to be able to measure and see is that your lifetime value of a customer, or your LTV, is going to increase because users are more engaged and they are staying for longer. They're within your universe for a longer period of time. They're now becoming invested through that growth loop. Think of it as genuinely as you are at the center of that universe and everything is gravitating around you, including your customers and all your functions. They're sticking around much longer. They're purchasing from you more often, or they're purchasing in higher quantities. Therefore, the LTV is increasing while your CAC is decreasing. That is a magic source for growing businesses in 2025 and beyond. Now, what actually we talk about within loops is that it is retention and acquisition in one system. You're not just paying attention to one of those things, or isolating them into different loops. You are thinking about acquisition and retention within the exact same loop. So, what you end up then is you're not actually buying growth, you're building growth. And that's a really key part of growth loops versus funnels. Funnels, you are buying growth. Growth loops, you're building it. And finally, I very briefly mentioned this before, but you can still use paid in this, paid media, but you just need to utilize it smarter. Okay. So the example of utilizing paid media to produce a search, such as within PPC, you get a click, you get that conversion. That data should then be helping you to inform how you better retarget users and keep them within that universal loop for a little bit longer. Ideally, what you're doing is you're creating enough value on each of these other systems, these other functions, that provides users with enough information and value to work their way towards that commitment. And paid media is just an element of that, which helps reinforce the message. Okay, so you can utilize paid media to support higher ranking, to be more discoverable. But at the end of the day, especially Gen Zers and obviously and still millennials and even older generations, people are getting savvy towards advertising and are actually becoming blind to it, even within social media feeds. So the less that you can make your growth engine about paid marketing while still increasing and then maintaining things like your growth rate, your value, customer value, and decreasing your cost per acquired user, then you are doing a much better job than I would say 90% of the brands that are out there that are still relying on paid media. It's a whole supply and demand thing. The more people that want to use it, the higher the costs are going to go. The less people that use it, rather, costs will decrease over time, which is also going to have an impact on your business, a positive one. If you wait until that point and you're decreasing your cost per acquisition, increasing LTV, and all of a sudden those things might become cheaper, you can maybe utilize those a bit more and actually have a win-win-win situation on your hands for your business. Okay, so let's wrap up this video. Funnels, they're a one-shot conversion element. Growth loops are a reinforcing compounding machine. Okay, we use micro loops for short-term goals and for closed network feedback. We use universal brand loops for long-term sustainability. Loops are economic machines. They will generate you those compounding results. It's very much like if you're familiar with any kind of trading or investment, you want that money, you want that effort to be working for you in overdrive while you sleep, and with actually you touching it and being less hands-on within that system. Okay. Lastly, as a call to action for you guys, we're going to be doing a lot of teardown videos about growth loops, how they compare against funnels, utilizing real life scenarios. We'll bring some case studies to the table. We want to utilize this as a platform to kickstart conversations. So if you do have any comments that you want to provide on this, drop them in the comments. Let's start that conversation. Bring ideas to the table for other people to integrate into their businesses. Let's build community here. Okay, and I'll see you in the next one.